All right, we're back, guys. I apologize if you were tuned in to the Paddock Party a little bit earlier here. We had just brought in our guest, Shawn Barker, and had some technological problems on our end here, so we're going to try it again. So I'll give you guys a little bit of an intro again, and we'll try to get Shawn back in here. So hopefully that'll give you some time if you're watching the old version to get flipped over to this one. So I apologize for the technological errors and stuff. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us here on the Paddock Party. My name is Austin Scott with Scott Trot, which is my harness racing fan page that you guys are watching and tuned into right now. So I want to thank you for tuning in, spending some of your Wednesday night with us, and also thank you for giving our page a like. If you think of it, feel free to share this video and any my page and stuff with your friends and try to get them to like it as well, and we'll continue to grow things here. So just waiting for our technological stuff to kind of get worked back out here. So I think we should be back up and live and rolling again. So I just brought in our guest, Shawn Barker. He's another Ohio driver here, and he follows the season at Miami Valley Raceway from January through May, and then at Scioto Downs from June into September, and then goes to Dayton Raceway September through December. So really appreciate Shawn joining us here tonight. When I started the Scott Trot page, I reached out to him, and he was one of the first drivers to give my page a like, and he mentioned at that time, hey, I'd be up to help any way I can. And I told him down the road I wanted to do some interviews like this, and tonight he is going to be joining us. So we had him one time, and we had someone tell us we look like little gremlins on the screen. So we're sorry for that, and hopefully we can get this worked out now. So let me see if we can add Shawn back in here. Sent Shawn the invite here, so we'll see properly. All right, Shawn, you're back with us here. We'll see once you get added in. We got a little bit of delay here on my monitor that I have, but once we're good to go, I got the thumbs up. So I guess up and down's the way to do it then.
Must be.
Hey, thanks for being patient with me, buddy. I appreciate it, and just talking about you a little bit again here. So far on the season at the raceways here, Miami Valley Raceway, Scioto Downs, Dayton Raceway. Shawn's driven 70 winners, 84 second place finishers, 84 third place finishers, and has earnings of over $660,000. So again, joining me is Shawn Barker. And Shawn, how you doing tonight, my friend? Thanks for
Good, buddy. How are you?
Thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us.
I told you I'd do anything I could to help you, man, a long time ago.
I know. That's what I said. That was back maybe November, December of last year. And I was telling people the first go around, when I went down to Dayton Raceway for the first time last year in the snow, I was able to meet you and have my wife take my picture with you and stuff like that. So it was a really fun night. And it seems like you're always up for that kind of stuff. And I think you're somebody great for the sport here. So thanks again. So we'll start things out. We talked about it in our first video, but for those that are just joining us or might have missed it, Barry Vickroy, the track announcer for Miami Valley, Scioto, and Dayton Raceway, likes to call you the Deuce. Can you kind of tell people how that came about?
Well, I'm Shawn Barker the second instead of Junior, so that's how that came about. So instead of everybody calling me Junior, I got called two. So I got called that since I was a toddler, so it doesn't matter.
So it's stuck with you now for a long time. How old are you now, Shawn? You're still very young here in the harness.
I'm 29.
29. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, perfect, man. So we talked about how your year's been going so far. We talked about your nickname, and for some of the new people that are out there and don't know you, again, you're one of the first drivers I really rooted for at the track and got to learn about. But for the new people out there, tell them a little bit about where you're from, and then also how did you get your start in the harness racing business?
I'm from Chillicothe, Ohio, and there wasn't many horsemen around there. I mean, Steve Carter's down around that way, and the Clemens were down around that way, and my aunts, they all had horses there. But my grandpa's who got me started in the business. He's about the only one that had faith in me when I first started. And So when I first started driving, I mean, my dad had horses. My dad had 15 horses at one time, but
Hmm.
the owners, they're greedy. In any aspect, they're always greedy, which anybody is. So like I wasn't when I first started driving, I wasn't allowed to drive them in
Hmm.
certain occasions, like if they were up in class or drew inside and they thought they could win. So my grandpa he always had faith in me, and I always got the first call on them horses, and that's really what got me started.
Okay. So you talk about driving and stuff like that, but were you taking care of the horses and helping your dad out when you first got started?
Yeah, my dad worked for Dave Hawk, and they had about 30 head, and they had a great run at it. And when I was 9 years old, we trained at a farm in Circleville called the Old Henry Farm, and Dave actually had an old horse named Mighty Sam. And before I was allowed to jog, I had to clean the stall. So, they made me do the whole routine. I had to fill the water buckets, clean the stall, and then I could jog. Then I could get on the track because that's the only thing I wanted to do. But they're like, "Well, you got to work for it, kid."
I must be spoiled then. So a couple of the
Oh,
trainers out at the fairgrounds here in town, Tony Price and Tim Ignarski, handed me the reins right away and were kind of letting me learn that way. So I didn't even get to start mucking stalls. So I must be one of the lucky ones in this
yeah,
business.
for
So
sure, for sure.
that's
Every stall I cleaned, I got to jog the horse. So,
yeah.
and I mean, jogging's boring, but when you're a kid, it's great.
Heck yeah, that's a big deal, man. So, I mean, what point were you starting to jog horses? Like what age?
I was 9 years old.
Oh
Yeah,
wow, okay.
yeah.
I
I rode on my dad's lap forever,
mhm.
and I tell you a funny fucking or sorry
Oh
a
whoa,
fun
already
a funny
already.
story. When I was about 11, there was a horse named Pay and Thee, and he run off with me. He was a red horse, and Sturgill Loman owned the horse, and my dad trained him, and we were going around this. It's just a little dinky track out in the middle of nowhere. And they always told me aim him for something if one runs off with you. Aim him, aim him, aim him. So like I aimed him at my dad's back and he wasn't slowing down. So like I missed him at the last step, and we must have went 6 miles or 7 miles before this horse come back to me. And I come off from jogging. My dad's like, "What'd you learn?" I said, "Not to point him at you." I mean, I missed him by that much. Because
Oh,
I thought if I aimed him at something, he would slow down. Like they say, if one's running through the fence, turn him and face it to him, whatever.
hmm.
Yeah, it was funny. Now it's funny. Back then, I was scared to death. I was
Oh
9.
yeah. I bet. Holy cow. So you start jogging when you were 9 years old, and then
Yeah.
how old were you, and what do you remember from your first drive at? I'm assuming probably at a county fair or maybe a qualifier. What was it?
No, it was Pike County, or I matineed a horse for Bill Taylor when I was 13 or 14, named Passum Sam. And
Okay.
he could leave the gate like a runner. You know what I mean? He said just put him on the gate, and I had trained the horse forever because he was stabled at the fairgrounds, and I had trained the horse forever. And he's like, just put him on the gate, and he said he'll teach you how to drive. So I was like, okay. And I mean, I win by 21 lengths or something, like 2-1. Thought it was the greatest day of my life. Wanted to drive every horse in the car. It was just a matinee. I think you won a halter or a blanket or something, and it was whatever. But my first fair win, my dad had a horse named Luctor's Cam Flash. It was at Piketon Fair. I was 16, and I'll never forget. I had the 3 hole, and I crossed right over, and the horse just went easy. I mean, he was a good horse, and with bad ones.
Hmm.
And Dad was just trying to boost my confidence a little bit. And he did a good job at it because he went pretty easy.
Well, that's good, man. So you get your first win when you're 16. How long were you driving on the fairs here in Ohio before you started making your way to the raceways?
I drove from when I was 16, because you're only allowed to drive to fairs when you're 16, 17, and 18. And then when you turn 18, if you have enough starts and stuff like that, you can drive at the parimutuel tracks. And in a tragic event, Justin Hall got hurt. So when I was 16, I was driving my dad's horses, but when I was 18, Justin got hurt. So my aunt was engaged to him,
Hmm.
and he had, I don't know, 18 or 20 head, and I mean decent horses. So like I kind of just did what I had to do and stepped up and helped her. Well, I got to drive all of them. That's really how I got started.
Okay.
And a tragic. I mean, it was tragic, but don't get me wrong. But that's really how I got started.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, what do you remember of your first pari-mutuel win?
I remember actually it was one of Justin's horses that I was just talking about. An old horse named Lost of Belief. He was a firm belief, and he was the most sulking thing that you could ever imagine. And Justin told me before I went out, he said he'll never win by more than a head, just be close at the top of the lane, but he will get there. And you just had to be close. And starting off the last turn, I was second over, and I flipped three deep, and he just circled them. I don't know if they were stopping that bad or if he just felt like he was having a good day or what, but he just circled them. He went by like 7, and I was pulling up into the winner circle, and Justin said, "Well, I've never seen him win by that many." And it was like 59 or something, and halfway down the stretch, like I was crossing over, and I'll never forget it because you're young and you're whip happy and you're just wanting to get there. And Jeff Nysonger looked over at me and he said, "Just relax, kid, you're there." And I just tucked the whip. So yeah, I'll never forget that. That was my first pari-mutuel win. Lots of belief.
And where was that at, Sean?
Lebanon Raceway.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
well, good. That's funny out of Jeff. So I can just picture him saying that with kind of the dry sense of humor and stuff that he has.
Oh yeah, and Jeff's been really good to me. He kind of took me under his wing when we were at Lebanon. Like he was really good to me.
Well, that's awesome.
I even drove a lot of horses for him nowadays.
Okay. Yeah, Jeff's another guy that's been super good to me in my time here, getting into the business also. So, really good guy. So, for you so far in your career, what would you consider your career year? So, it could be maybe a year that you really had a breakout year and kind of got your name out on the radar a little bit, or it could be a year that you won the most races or won a really big race,
Um,
something like that.
it would have been last summer with Giggles and Dreams, no doubt about it. I've always, I've always been there, but she made me have a breakout year, like with the sire stakes and stuff like that. Like I won the state fair pace with her going for 135,000. She was like 14-1, and then I come back and win 2 legs of the sire stakes with her, and then I was second, got beat a neck in the final, going for 300,000 with her, and she was just an amazing mare.
Wow. And where was the final at that year? Well,
Northfield,
at Northfield. Okay.
yeah, and
2019.
it rained all day, just a bad night, and they actually had to delay the races and grade the whole track, or we wouldn't have been able to race. It was so bad. Yeah, and she raced super. She raced super that night.
Just a little bit short, but that's really cool. So, and that was kind of answering my follow-up question too. Was there a horse that you sat behind during that year that really helped, I guess, get you on the map or let you have that breakout year? So, Giggles and Dreams was that horse. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So,
And
um,
and she really, and early in the year, they had her in the Scarlet and Gray, and they had her in the Hackett and everything, and she drew outside, drew bad, and she didn't have very many starts. I think she had 12 starts as a 2-year-old, so she was still learning. And them guys are such great horsemen. When you're that way, you want your horse passing late when they're young. You know what I mean? Don't matter, pass horses late.
Mm-hmm.
So like when she drew outside, I would just duck her, duck her, duck her. And a week before the sire stakes, I think I was second that night in the sire stakes. But the week before the sire stakes, I drew the 4-hole and we were in like a non-winners of 2 or non-winners of 4. And I looked at Don and Mike Easel. I was like, hey, tonight's the night we're going to find out what she's made of. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, we got sire stakes next week. I was like, we need to find out what we got. And I was fourth in the Hackett, fourth in the Scarlet and Gray and stuff. Like, she was always charging, but never there.
Mm-hmm.
So I scored her down and I got her all revved up and I whacked it and she went like 53 flat, 27 in a piece. And I was like, see, I was like, now we know what we got and now we can race her.
She's
And
good.
they never made me over race her. That's why she got so good late when the money was down.
Okay. Gotcha. So got a lot of good things with Giggles and Dreams, and for you looking back at this season, I mentioned some of your stats at the top of our broadcast here, but for you, have you had a favorite moment in 2020? I know it's been a year of a bunch of craziness for all horsemen, but was there a moment you kind of look back on that you were really proud or excited about?
Not really. I was just glad to get back to racing, to be honest with you. Like I was like my best friend Tyler Smith. He's all about stats, and he's got the USTA membership where he looks up everything. And he's like, dude, he's like, I'm looking at these stats right now. He's like, you're only 20 wins from your best year in your life. And he's like, we've been shut down for 3 months. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And he's like, yeah, he's like, dude, he's like, and he carries a notepad and a pen around, like adds up what he makes every night and this and that. And it was funny because he's like, oh, you're only so many wins down from your best year and money wise, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, we've been shut down for 3 months. He's like, yeah. He's like, I think you finally broke through. And I was like, yeah. I was like, that mare last year helped me, like, let people know, like, in big situations, I can prevail. You know.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it was great to have you guys back racing after a couple of months off. So, something here that you've only had to deal with, and this is kind of a random question. We're making a left-hand turn here a little bit, but for you, what's it like racing in bad weather? So far this year at Dayton Raceway, you guys, a lot of the meet November, December, you're running down there, and I think you guys have had one snow day so far. So I wanted to ask you, as a driver, I'm just curious, what's it like when you have to race in the rain or race in the snow? How does it affect you guys as drivers, and how does it affect the horses?
It affects everything. You know what I mean? Like, you basically have to adapt and overcome. When it's real windy, and to be honest, when it's real windy, you don't ever want to be on the lead. A horse carries uh, so much pressure on their chest when they're on the lead anyway. When it's blowing 30 mile an hour, the 2-hole trip or a 3-hole trip, getting out late is the best thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you just have to adapt to it. You don't ever want to over race when it's bad because they're not going to get home good. And that's where the money's at. The money's not at the quarter pole; it's at the finish line. You know what I mean? And sometimes I think we all stray away from that because if you could see our first quarters, you'd understand. Uh, but you just don't want to over race in bad weather. That's all it is. You don't want to overdo it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, for you as a driver, do you enjoy any of it, or is it something you tolerate, or what is your stance on when it's raining or snow?
You just gotta tolerate it. I mean, it's brutal. Like I have a picture on my Facebook or something. It was the first half of the card, the first 5 races, it rained,
Mhm.
and then about the 8th race, it turned into snow. And I mean, I had so many layers on, I felt like I couldn't move in the race bike, but I couldn't feel my hands or my feet. So I mean, it's just something you got to adapt to.
Mhm.
Like any job you got to just got to adapt to the bad things.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
it's part of the job too.
Yeah, and that was something I was always curious about. So, like we mentioned too, I met you at Dayton Raceway last year on a snow day down there, just because I was so curious what racing in the snow looked like. So, we'll kind of shift gears here. We've been talking about a lot of what happens on the track, but wanted to kind of go behind the scenes with you a little bit here. So obviously you're racing. I can't even imagine how many days a year it really is, but and I think I wrote down, you've made over 932 starts this year, so you're really burning up the roads. For Shawn Barker, what does a ride to the track look like? Do you like to get some music rolling? Do you like to maybe focus in? What is your vibe heading to the racetrack on race night?
If I'm only in a couple races, I ride by myself. 89 to 95% of the time, I ride with Tyler Smith. We live not even 10 minutes apart, so we carpool every day. And so when we're together, we jam out. You know what I mean? But if I'm by myself, I honestly listen to a lot of podcasts and talk radio. Like I like the slow stuff. But if him and I are together, then we definitely turn the radio up. He likes the upbeat, like crunk music, and I like the depressing country music.
I cannot picture Tyler. So Tyler's jamming out to like club music or something, or
Oh,
what?
for sure, for sure. Actually, speaking of him, he said he was next in line for an interview if you want to hit him up.
Yes. Hey man, I'd love to. So you and
We
Tyler
were
both.
actually we were actually going to ask you if you wanted to do a double interview, but we couldn't figure out how to do it, so I told him that I would just make him next in line.
Dude, yeah, we could have totally done that. But yeah, that'd be a lot of fun to have Tyler in here. But I'll
Yeah.
I'll ask him more about some of the artists and DJ
Oh yeah, he
stuff.
likes like the Nelly and the Plies and the stuff like that.
And and from what I follow, Facebook stuff like that, you definitely seem like you're when you have the aux cord, you're throwing on some Luke Combs.
Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, George Strait, that kind of stuff.
Hey,
Or if I'm by myself, I listen to podcasts. Is what I do.
I got you.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's what I listen to and stuff too. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And today, is one of the rare days off. Again, really, you're only getting. I think we talked about you're getting like 2 days a week off usually throughout the season. So for you, what do you like to do on your off days?
I see. Right now, it's tough because we're off Wednesdays and Sundays, so you can't make plans to go do something for 2 days. Like today, I got a 4-year-old son. I went and picked him up. We went and played video games or at Triple Crown and stuff. But you can't like make full blown commitment plans because you only got 8 hours. And
Mm-hmm.
his mom works for the USCA, so she works from 8 to 4:30. So we race um, well, Thursdays we race in the afternoon. So I got to drop him off tonight because she don't get off
Right.
till 4:30. So, and that's what I like to do. I love to go pick him up. Like me and Tyler and Alicia and him and Maven, Tyler's daughter Maven and Jackson. We go to Scene 75, ride the go karts and stuff. And I do like to do a little fishing in the summer. I didn't get to do much of it this year because of all the fairs and stuff. But other than that, like I like to fish, and I just when you have a day off and you're on the road for 3 hours a day every other day of the week, you kind of just want to chill out, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. I get that. So that's pretty cool. Getting to spend some time with your son and stuff like that today. So
Oh yeah,
yeah, especially after 5 of the 7 days a week for 12 months a year, you're pretty much racing. So
yeah.
um,
And then when we're going to Dayton and Miami Valley, like we got to drive an hour and a half one way, so it's 3 hours on the road no matter what.
oh wow,
So
okay.
oh
I didn't even
yeah,
realize you guys were that far away. Are you Washington Courthouse or where did you say you?
no, we're about 15 minutes south of Scioto.
Okay, okay. So
Yeah.
Scioto is definitely the home track for you.
Yeah, when it comes to summertime, we'll only be about 15 minutes away, but the other two tracks, yeah, it's an hour and a half one way.
Wow. Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
even realize that. So yeah, that's a lot of road time. So we went behind the scenes a little bit here, and now I want to talk to you about some stuff in harness racing. It's no secret right now that it is a sport that's in need of of some young and newer blood, so to speak. So I have a lot of horsemen that tell me that, and they're very welcoming and welcome me with open arms, so to speak, because I'm 24, and they want to see me, be part of that next generation, along with guys like yourself. You're only 29. You're part of that next generation into the sport too. So for you, I want to kind of pick your brain on how we can make harness racing more fun, better, more accessible, a lot of different things. So the first question I kind of had for you was, how do you make going to the harness races a more entertaining experience? So it can be something with the actual product, the horses and the racing action on the track. It could be stuff that's during downtime or things of that nature. What would you like to see added or changed?
A lot of people are going to disagree with me. About everybody might disagree with me, but my opinion is we can't have so much time in between races. You watch a football game, it's 2.5 hours, and that's the biggest sport that there is. I know everybody thinks the drag brings bettors in. Bettors are going to bet. They bet last minute because they want to see what's in the pools. You gotta kind of got to cut that down. Like I can literally have I'm still best friends with 20 people that I went to high school with, and I could bring them to the track every weekend, but they don't want to sit there for 5 hours because beer's $5.75 a piece, or you know what I mean. All joking aside, but beer's $5.70. It costs you $120 to come there, let alone you're gambling. So if they would literally have dollar drafts and dollar hot dogs night, something like that, or we're at Scioto, which is right next to Ohio State University, have college night, which is in the summer, so not a lot of kids are still there, but
Right.
have like a transit bus, transform back and forth, whatever. That would help a lot for the on track. I don't know so much about the simulcasting, but I do know Gabe Pruitt made a big difference this summer. Big difference. But he likes to drag them. I'll tell him. I'm like, Gabe, we got to get out of here. And he's like, nope, we're dragging 15 minutes this race. So then me and Gabe are pretty good friends. And, them old school guys think drag, drag, drag. But you have to adapt with the times. That's just like with technology or cars or whatever. You want a car that's got a Bluetooth speaker or something like that, or you have to adapt with the times. So I think trying to entertain people for 6 hours at a racetrack isn't going to work anymore.
Yeah, and I can definitely agree with you on that too. And one thing I want to pat, it may be just him, or I don't know how much the tracks have to do with it, but I want to pat Barry Vickroy on the back, the announcer at Miami Valley and Scioto Downs and Dayton Raceway, because it's something so small and simple, but it's just really effective. Is he'll throw music on in between the races, and
Yeah.
even after the post party, while you guys are scoring down, or the post party, the post parade, my bad. Uh, but even when you guys are scoring down, he'll throw music back on then. And I mean, whether you're at the track or you're at home watching, to me, it just kind of keeps you entertained rather than having 15 minutes of just dead air in between the races. So that's one thing I really like. And for me, I'll go to the gym here and just ride on the bike, and I'll throw my headphones in, and I can watch the races for the 2 minutes you guys are on the track, and then the other 15 minutes, I have that music to kind of
You don't have to. You don't have to close your app out to go play your music.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
The best thing about Barry is if you pay close attention, every horse that wins, he has a specific song that relates to that horse. So and he's one of the wisest people I've ever met when it comes to that.
He's quick too, man. I swear you can drop the most random horse there, and I mean, there's only a few minutes of time between when you guys are crossing the wire to when you're leaving the winner's circle, and in that couple minutes time, he's already got a song figured out.
Yeah, he's very, very, very wise when it comes to that. I'll never forget. There was a horse named Life is Good Today, and you know the Zach Brown song, Life's Good Today.
Yeah.
The horse was crossing the wire and he won by like 2 lengths or something, and Barry said adios via Camille's or something like that, and then played the song afterwards. So very, 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 very sharp.
He is, man. That's
I love listening to like that's. I think that made Scioto so good. Him and Gabe handicapping and talking to each other and letting the fans hear. And they would interview the drivers and stuff and get the input and this and that. Like we know more about the horses than the naked eye. You know what I mean? So when they hear us talking about our horses, then they get a little bit more confident. You know.
yeah, I like that too, and that's something at Dayton Raceway they're kind of missing. So I know Pacey and stuff does his deal at Miami Valley, and then Gabe did that at Scioto this year, and so that'd be something to add at Dayton Raceway too. And I think that helps out bettors and stuff like that also, and it makes a more well-rounded broadcast in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And me and Tyler were talking, and like honestly, 2 days ago we were watching NFR, the National Finals Rodeo, and in between every event they have something going on. They have entertainment that which makes it bearable to be there for as long as they are, and they're running, 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 and that's what we need. We need today's society. It's all right now. You know what I mean? Like we can order our food on our phones and go pick it up. We're not going to sit there for 3 hours with a blank stare.
Right.
And I think that would be a big product in the harness racing industry, like just making things, even if we had some kind of entertainment in between to make it a little more bearable. Like people don't want to sit there for 25 minutes in between races and twiddle their thumbs. They don't want to do it. Do you?
No, man, no, sir.
Exactly.
And
I hate it. When I'm sitting in the paddock, I don't want to wait 15 minutes to go out for the post parade. I want to go out there. I obviously go in, read the program, and then I want to go to my horse, go out there and race. You know what I mean? And it's brutal sometimes.
So we talked about kind of improving things there, and another thing for me. So I come from the car racing world, and when you come out to one of our races, you can spend a little extra money to get back in the pits, where you can pretty much come right up to me, talk to me, sit in my car, whatever you wanted to do. And that's something I feel like that is missing from the harness racing world. And I understand this is a little different because it's 1,000-pound animals. There's a lot of unpredictability maybe in there too, to where we can't just have little kids walking through the paddock while people are getting a race ready. So I understand some of that stuff, but for you personally, what do you think can be done to get fans closer to the drivers, the horses, and just everyone?
Actually, my little cousin and my uncle, which is his dad, race dirt track racing, and I would always go to the pits when we go there. We'd make a makeshift push truck and go back there just so we could get back there for free. Push the sprints to get started, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was the greatest thing ever. I think we have to get the fans interacted with them. You know what I mean? Like everybody's like, "Oh, you're not allowed in the paddock. You're not allowed in the paddock." Like, why not? Like, we have to get the kids. If the kids are involved, they're going to beg their parents to come back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And if their parents are there, like I said, they're going to bet. So it's a 50-50 choice because you can't have a little kid getting run over,
Right.
obviously. But I think if we could bring them back before the races, see, we used to do barn tours and stuff like that, have pony rides and stuff. We need to bring that back.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get the kids on the backside, let them know before and the after and everything like that, and it would help a ton to get the youth involved.
Absolutely, and I
And,
agree on that too. So almost like doing an open house thing or something back there, like you said, getting there. That was something a racetrack up by us would do is an hour before the races would start.
Let's just make sure you're all right, because when I pulled in, you were still there.
Uh-oh.
all
So my
right.
bad. We'll get wrapped up here. We're real close to
No,
it.
you're good. You're good.
But yeah, an hour before the track or before they would start racing, they would open up the backside or the pit area, and fans for 1 hour could just go back there and do whatever they wanted.
And
And
we should definitely bring that back. Let the kids come back and pet the horses, and the trainers know which horses you can pet without getting bit. You know what I mean? have the grooms even know. You know, the grooms are the most unappreciated people that we have. They put the work in all week, and the trainers just go out and train them, bring them back in. The grooms put them away, this and that. The grooms are the most unappreciated people that we have. So they know everything about the horse. So if a little kid's like, "Hey, can I pet this horse?" The groom's like, he might nip a little bit, or yeah, come love on this one because he'll just rub back on you, you know. And we used to have barn tours back at Scioto and stuff like that. And we need to bring that back. We got to get everybody involved.
I absolutely agree, man. So, and one thing I've seen pictures like, for example, on your Facebook, I think I have seen you do like autograph sessions and stuff like that before, maybe at Scioto. How often do they do that? I've only, I've been down there at Super Night. They did some autograph sessions with like Montrell Teague and Brett Miller and stuff like that. But are they doing that? Obviously, this year is tough because of COVID and all that. But in a normal year, how often are they having you guys out there doing that?
We probably did it 3 or 4 times the summer before, which, I mean, and we give away, the one night we give away 200 hats. And they was bringing in more boxes, like just to be signed by a driver. They didn't care who the driver was. They just wanted that. Like I had a little kid. I was in the 9th race. I had one drive. I was in the 9th race, and they asked me. They said, "Can you come over?" I said, "Yes, absolutely. Anything to promote the sport." And I sat over there from the first race to the 6th race, the whole time. And there was this little kid come up. He's like, "Hey, man, can you sign my hat?" And I said, "Absolutely, buddy." He was like, "Who do you want it made out to?" Whatever. I signed his hat. 15 minutes later, he come back. He had 2 more people with him. He's like, "This is my dad and my mom." He's like, "Can you sign their hats?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." I was like, 20 minutes later, he had 4 more people with him. It was his grandma, his sister, you know what I mean? And it was like a chain effect. That's what we need. And Scioto did a great job at that during the summer. Like, we did a lot of autographs the one summer that we could, 19, like on the bigger nights and stuff. And, most of the drivers would show up early just to do it, to promote the sport. Like, Chris Page is great at promoting the sport. He's very intelligent, this and that. Kane Kaufman, Danny Noble, Jeremy Smith, Tyler Smith, them guys, we would all go over just because we wanted them guys to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we need.
Absolutely, I agree. We had somebody that did ask a question here. Did you ever race at Toledo Raceway Park up there, Shawn?
No, I did not.
No,
No.
okay. Because somebody said, "What about the window at Raceway Park?" So I'm assuming maybe there was something.
I have no. They had a great grandstand. It was connected to the paddock because I did go up there. My aunt Becky, she's married to Tony Zubkoff, and they race horses up there all the time. Well, the grandstand was connected to the paddock, and the window she's talking about was a big window all the way down. And you could see into the paddock. So
Okay.
that was perfect for the sport. You could walk to the grandstand and look over and see right in the paddock. And that was perfect for the sport. I never drove there, but I was there a lot.
Okay, gotcha. And that's
Yeah.
obviously at Dayton Raceway for me. That's probably my favorite facility that I do go watch and watch races at, just because the paddock is so close.
Yeah.
But I'm sure something could be done there with that close distance, because for you guys as drivers, that's a pretty short walk, maybe over to the spectator side and vice versa. If they did some kind of open barn, open house type of thing there too.
Yeah, and that's what we need to do. And Tyler was talking to Joe Morris, um, who runs Scioto now, Joe Morris and Gabe,
Mm-hmm.
about they was like, "Well, let's tear the paddock down and let's build it in the last turn." And Tyler was like, "No, let's build it right next to the clubhouse, let the fans get interactive." And that's what we need to do. I mean, that's all what we need to do.
That would be awesome, man. If the time and money was there to make that happen,
Yeah.
I would fully support it. So we had a couple of fan questions we already answered, but one of them came from Jeff Arvin, and he asked Shawn, "What is the difference between driving on a half-mile track versus a 5/8? So how do you have to change your driving style?"
You have to be way more aggressive on a half. You have to. Post position means everything on a half. Like back in the day when we were driving at Lebanon Raceway, if you had the 8-hole, 80% of the time count yourself out. Like at Northfield, you watch them guys. They have the 8 or 9 hole. They're never 3 to 5 or 2 to 5 or whatever. It's tough. I mean, you have to be up close on a half. The stretches are short, so you're not going to get much of a kick if you flip off a cover, this and that. You have to drive different. You have to drive aggressive.
And post draw is very important, like you mentioned too. So we had another question just now rolling. This is coming from Tim Ignarski, who is the trainer that I'm currently helping here at the barns here in Wapakoneta, and he asked, when looking at your nightly drives, what do you look for in the program? So I guess that could mean, you'll obviously see where you're starting at, but what do you look for from other horses and drivers, and what do you look for in your own horse?
I look for class drop. If a horse has been performing mediocre but consistent, I look for him to drop down in class and see where he drew. And post position always means everything, no matter what size track you're on. I know the half's a little different, but even on the 5/8, if you got the 8 or 9 hole, it's tough unless you got one that can leave hard. I always look for class drop and back class from the horse.
Okay, gotcha. So
Yeah.
thank you, Tim Ignarski, for sending your question in. So Shawn, we'll wrap things up. We went a little longer than I even told you we would. So thanks for hanging in there with me and keeping it fun. Before we end the show, I wanted to talk about kind of your future in the sport. So again, 29 years old. You've already got 13 years of racing experience in you, if we count when you started at the fairs. Or well, actually, did you start at 13 or 14? I know you said you had a matinee, but did you start actually?
I think it was 14, yeah.
Okay. So already, 14, 15 years of experience under your belt. So for you, long term, what career goals do you have?
I just want to succeed, you know what I mean? Um, I don't know. I like winning the big races and stuff, but I just want to succeed. It's so fun. I don't care if we're going for $1,000 or if we're going for $30,000. I want to win. That's all there is to it. Um, that's what my goals are, just to win.
You think a Sire Stakes final would be pretty nice for you?
Very nice. I was really close one time. I think we brought that up. I got a little sour about that, but yeah, yeah, for sure. I love driving the 2-year-olds. I love teaching them how to race, and then watching them peak, perform, and do what you taught them to do. And that's the best part of the game. And I like I said, I listen to a lot of talk radio, a lot of podcast stuff. I listened to a Ron Burke interview, and if you ever watch Chris Page, he even trumped Chris over Yannick and Matt and all them and said Chris is the best at teaching one to race. So when I go in, when you're driving with guys like Brett, Chris, Jeremy, Kane, Tyler, even Tyler's brother Trevor's come a long way and is performing very well. Them guys, Danny Noble. When you're in a bad spot, you kind of look at what spot they're in, and you can follow them and be okay because you know they're in the spot they want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So that when it comes to driving, you just it's very complicated, but it's very easy at the same time. Just don't ever be afraid of work and show up when no one else will.
Hey, those are similar words that Chris Presley gave me last week. So I asked him. I said, "Hey, what's your advice to a guy like me?" Because I'm an aspiring owner, trainer, and driver, and he kind of echoed the same thing. For him, he's always, when he was first trying to get started, he was always there hanging on the fence in case some driver couldn't make it, or a driver picked off a horse or something like that. He said, just be there. when the other guys aren't. And you said, the same thing. So,
You can't, if you ever want to achieve as a driver, you can never be scared of work. Like for 8 years or 10 years, I worked for Jeff and Kathy Smith, which took me under their wing. I lived with them for 3 years or something like that. And, you can't ever be scared of work. I did double duty. Like I would work at the barn in the morning, then have to leave early to go race. And then you leave at 7 in the morning, you get down at midnight. You have to get back up at 6:30, get there at 7. You can't, if you want to succeed, you can't be afraid of work. And, I want to give Jeff and Kathy a shout out, and Dan Ader. I mean, Dan Ader basically revived my driving career. Uh, and I worked for him for 3 years. I always did the double duty and stuff like that. So you can't be scared of work if you want to succeed.
absolutely, man. So we'll leave it there, Shawn. I appreciate all of your time tonight, and I really appreciate your support of Scott Trott here. So, like I said, you were one of the very first drivers to hop on board with my page and say, "Hey, you need something, name the time and place, and I'll be there." And you definitely delivered on that, buddy. So,
Absolutely, we need more of this of our sport. We definitely do.
hey, I agree, and we'll keep trucking along here. So you already have 2 winners that you've driven this week at Dayton Raceway, and you got 3 more nights of racing ahead of you. So I hope many more victories rest of this week, the rest of this year, and then continued success going into 2021, man.
I think they're handicapping me a little bit because I drove 5 Tuesday and had 4 9 holes, and I looked at my lineup the rest of the week. I think I got 5 more 9 holes, so I think they're handicapping me a little bit.
They're gonna make you work for it, man. But I'm looking forward. I'll be tuned in. I'm sure at some point the next 3 nights and stuff, and I'll be rooting you on as always.
I hope to see you there, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'll see you around the track here soon, Shawn. And thanks to everybody that tuned in for our interview tonight. Shawn and I appreciate your support, and hope you have a good rest of your week and a Merry Christmas. Take care, Shawn.
You too, man. See you.
Bud.